Hello and thanks for checking out TheChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hello, Canadian MJ friends. Congrats to the Cron Bulls getting that deal following through. Altria with their big investment in the company, essentially buying a stake and spending a couple $1 billion to do so. So that's a significant bullish reaction. Let's talk about market psychology and the reaction that the market had. A lot of people pre-market were saying, oh, here we go. Remember when Constellation did this? We ran X amount of percent. We're going to do it again. This is great. The market is smart. Every single time you have something happen, the market prices it in. Remember when CGC got its Constellation news and the entire sector ran? That's every other company that does not have a deal pricing in to a certain degree getting a deal. So now that Cron got a deal, we're seeing a reaction with everybody that does not have a deal getting a more bullish reaction than names that already have a deal. So CGC up 3.5%, whereas a name like ACB was clearly one of the stronger names today behind Cron because they're probably the most likely name to get a deal from here. And APHA is still a possibility to get a deal as well, but with the dark cloud that's currently overhanging, that's probably a little bit less likely. So ACB holding up well as it's the most likely name. But keep in mind, it's now priced in to a certain degree. The fact that Cron just got a deal and ACB went up 7.8% in response to that is the market pricing in that move by 7.8%. So if CGC, which was a surprise shock of Constellation deal out of nowhere, got a 20% move, Cron, we're looking for, and CGC got a much bigger move. Cron's getting a smaller move in response to that. The next name that gets a deal, unless it's, huge or a huge company, if it's in line with these other names, it's going to be a smaller reaction because, again, it's already pricing in. Anybody that bought these companies today was pricing in ACB for the potential that it's going to get the deal next. So we just have to keep that in mind. The market does this all the time. Trump's been tweeting about the China and the US deal. When he first started tweeting about it, we saw huge market reactions. Now he's tweeted about it a dozen times and the market and the algos are like, who cares? And they don't really react as much. So the market gets used to things. It prices things in. So Cron Bulls had a great day. Congrats. So CGC, we're just looking for daily lower highs for everybody except for Cron. On these bounces, we knew anything under 35.18 is a lower high. So I watched pre-market and I watched CGC respond to Cron's news. And we were still 10% away from daily resistance breaking. So pre-market, we could very easily say, don't, fall for the hype right now, guys. It's still a daily downtrend. We have to change the daily downtrend, and we're just going to set a daily lower high unless we go 10% after the open, which is extremely unlikely. So this may be our lower high at 32.55. I need a little bit more further pullback for me to call that our daily lower high. If we break the low of today, 30.80 on Monday, then I'll say, all right, our new lower high has been set, and the size of the bounce at this point does have us looking for a higher low. Anything above 28.10 is that higher low. And for the bulls to change the trend, we need a higher low compared to 28.10 and a break of the lower highs. In that instance, we would be looking for the weekly bounce to get going, and then we would be targeting the weekly chart to form just a lower high compared to 46.74. So bulls have work to do. 4-hour time frame, we can see it was just an oversold V-shaped recovery. We did not make it back to where we dumped from on that dump. And we're now looking for a higher low and a change of the trend to indicate any bounce has followed through. The S&P 500 is still extremely weak. The odds of the S&P 500 breaking the October lows significantly increased this week. We have the possibility of entering a recession. We have to prepare for that. If we enter a recession and people are pulling their money out of financial stocks, out of tech stocks, they're not going to be putting that money to work in higher risk, less proven industries. So just be aware that the current scenario where we stand right now, the Canadian MJ market has a bullish correlation with SPY. And that's due to this news today. That broke the correlation. It didn't break it. I mean, we still saw the correlation periodically throughout the day. It's just more bullish. So what that means is if we're at the same starting point and the bell rings and SPY pulls back, CGC in the sector is going to pull back a little bit less. And if SPY bounces, it's going to bounce just as much. So less pullback on the downside and equivalent or greater upside action. That's what we call a bullish correlation, and the news did that today. So we're going to see if that carries over into tomorrow. Even at the end of the day, I could see it happening in the last hour of trading with SPY weakness initially at about 3 p.m. Eastern before the bulls showed up. Yet the Canadian MJ sector was still holding on a little bit. So in terms of how did we know to look for profit taking today, gap ups are for selling in general. So we were watching the pre-market action, and 31.98 is the low of pre-market consolidation. And as soon as we break that first thing in the morning, that's a red flag. Look at 31.98 resistance or support, resistance, resistance, resistance. It's just perfection in terms of previous support, pre-market, acting as resistance all throughout the day, keeping the bears in control. So daily time frame, still watching for the trend changes, for momentum to shift, and we are patiently waiting for that trend change. And until that trend changes, locking in short-term bull profit while we have it. So APHA was a great bull play yesterday, and we were looking for, in the video yesterday, a short and a daily lower high in the $6 to $7 range. I was looking for the potential of APHA's response to mark the top, but in this instance, Citron did it for us. You got to love this. I mean, if it's not really clear to you at this point that this entire thing is one big joke of a game, the entire stock market, I don't know what it's going to take, but it's a joke, it's a game, and it's with real money. And so we think it's real. Humans have this. If you've ever seen Bill Hicks, that's who it is, and he has one of his endings of his stand-up, and he's talking about, this has to be real. Look at my house and my big car and my family. And he's talking about life and how it's all one big ride. You can apply that to the stock market. It's all one big ride, and we think this has to be real. It's real money. It's numbers on a screen. It's cyberspace. It's a game. There's players maneuvering things behind the scenes, and it's just crazy that you don't really realize that until you get into it and you see what these groups are doing. Andrew left with his shorts of the sector and now saying, oh, we had a deal. We were wrong about Cron, and now we're bullish APHA. And guess what that means? If Citron is telling you today that they're bullish APHA, that means they bought yesterday, and they're selling into telling you because they know there's going to be a little pump there, and they're going to sell and take their profit because they loaded yesterday. So again, just a game, and it's important to not get too emotionally attached to this game. So our lower high was set at 875 on the daily time frame. We're looking for a higher low compared to 476. I anticipate that higher low to form, and we're going to be watching the 4-hour time frame for a bit more clarity. So as you can see, the bull move up, higher low anticipated. We're going to look for that entry on Monday potentially. The stop will be down at 476. The more we pull back, if we were to pull back to under $6, we would then look for an equilibrium as the most likely scenario. If we only pull back to say 650, the potential for a higher low and continuation will be there. So we were looking bearish on APHA today, scouting that entry opportunity, and now we're going to be looking bullish on Monday for that higher low to form. Again, as I said in the video yesterday, daily equilibrium is the most likely scenario after our lower high. From there, we're going to see which direction that breaks and how it correlates with the sector. What I want to know is APHA going to correlate with the sector but be the weakest name still, as we have seen for months, or is it going to make a miraculous recovery? I have my opinions, but we'll let the price action do the talking, and we'll continue to check in on it every day. So the profit taking on APHA and the bearish entry, I mean, here's Citron right here. Hey, we're bullish APHA, and we're marking the high of the day. So pretty funny. Anyways, higher low is on watch for APHA. Cron, congrats to the bulls, but we got a clear signal, a clear bear signal for bears to enter first thing this morning by looking at the low of pre-market. The low of pre-market was 1355. That was the level. I went live at 9 a.m. as normal and started talking about it. Said 1355 is the must-hold level, and then it even broke, which surprised me. It broke before the open, so that showed us weakness. And then once the open started, 1340 was a key level for me. And I don't even see it on the 5-minute time frame, so it must have been a shorter-term level. And here it is, 1338, 1341. So down here, the first couple minutes of the day, we saw the bulls bounce off 1335. That's the level. And we saw a bull move. And we said, all right, that's our low of the day, or our low right before the bell rang. That's the must-hold level. Instantly came back down and broke it. From there, it was clear profit-taking was ongoing. And we saw profit-taking for the rest of the morning because gap ups are for selling. I did trade Cron on the pre-market there. We got the halt. We got the open, a great opportunity for the bulls to still get in pre-market. I entered on this consolidation at 1285. I sold way too early in the 1330s. And again, that's the kind of thing where I have a day maker pre-market. I'm absolutely going to lock it in. And I could look at that and say, oh man, I'm an idiot. I could have held for $1 higher. But then you look at where we closed at the end of the day, and we closed down at 1272. So I sold in the 1330s. Again, you can't beat up on yourself for these not nailing perfect trades, essentially. So what we're looking for on Cron is an equilibrium. We have the low of the pullback, the high of the initial bounce in response to that, a higher low, lower high at 1310, another lower high at 1294, a base of support down here at 1250, 1251, 1251, 1253. So 1251 is the most important short-term support level. 1294 is the most important key resistance short-term. And we're going to be watching for a higher low to be formed on the hourly time frame. You can see we're kind of grinding to try and form that higher low. We'll see if the bulls can follow through and respond. If we get a higher low very clearly set and we start taking out some of those lower high resistances, we're going to look for a lower high compared to 1458. So it's worth watching. The two plays that I'm watching the most on Monday are APHA for the bull entry, patiently searching for it because there's no support nearby, and Cron looking for a break of this tightening range, either 1251 support breaks and we see further consolidation, or the 15-minute lower highs break and the bulls show up. 1294 is that key resistance. ACB held up the best in my opinion because logically they're the most likely big name to get the next deal. The daily time frame, still a lower high, but it's right there. 787 is that resistance level. We got up to 782. So we're looking for a higher low to form. We have hardly consolidated at this point. Support is down at 743 and 734. If we break 734 on Monday, then we're going to pull back and look for the daily higher low to form compared to 621. So it's the same thing as CGC. Remember CGC? If we pull back and break the low of today, we look for the daily higher low. And same thing with ACB. If we break the low of today on Monday, we look for that higher low. But keep an eye on ACB because I'm going to be looking for the inverse head and shoulders pattern if we do consolidate with the left shoulder, the head, a right shoulder if we pull back to form a higher low, and then a bull break of the lower highs will indicate the daily trend change. And there's a bunch of resistance all lining up here just under $8. So if we break all of those levels at the same time, we should get some solid follow through. So again, you could tell today, if you were just watching today, you could tell that ACB was holding up better than most. It had a bullish correlation with the sector. So just like the sector had a bullish correlation with SPY, you could watch how ACB was reacting to CGC movement, and you could watch how the other names were, and ACB was holding up better. It was more bullish. So we're going to be watching ACB for an entry for these bulls, especially if we break these resistance levels. We don't have to consolidate. Again, a lot depends on SPY, and check out my SPY video, but if SPY continues bearish, it's going to slow down these bulls. Maybe it doesn't mean we're going to drop right back to our recent low, but it's going to slow down a bull break. So ideal scenario for these bulls into Monday is market bulls show up and we break the high of today for continuation. If we don't, we scout these daily higher lows and then look for the bulls to show up perhaps middle of the week. TLRY, very weak bounce attempt, not a whole lot of follow through. Anything under 109.35 was a lower high. We topped out at 104.44, and we look at the 4-hour time frame. It's just a bounce that's trying to find a higher low to change the trend. So resistance 104.44 and 109.35. Support is 97.64 and 94.13 as the two levels to be watching. Personally, I don't care about TLRY. I never trade it due to liquidity, and I'm getting sick of it. But I guess I'll keep covering it for now, unless you're all sick of it as well, and we'll throw somebody else in there. But TLRY, market cap wise and everything, it's still worth watching, but I'm not trading it, so covering it for all of you, and I'll gladly switch it for something else. So we got clear daily resistance, still lower highs on everybody except for Cron. Cron's got a nice tight pattern to be watching. APHA, 4-hour higher low, is on watch. We're watching for the response from the company. Again, I don't expect any kind of fireworks on that response from the company. If anything, there's more to lose for the bulls. And that's just because, you know, if the statement comes out, the market has already priced in from the bounce on Thursday that, okay, maybe the short attack wasn't as significant as they were making it out to be. But now if the company, you know, fumbles and puts out a pretty weak response and leaves a lot of things unanswered, we could still see a bearish reaction, but I do believe that the low is set for at least a few days from where we drop down to the 476 level. So hope you're all well. Hope you had a good week. We'll continue to check back in. Didn't do much trading today aside from that pre-market AP or pre-market cron flip, and that's because I didn't want to get back any of the gains on the day on the week after APHA has been such a good trader for the bulls this week. Even on these red days, green bull opportunity every single red day that we saw, and of course yesterday was the easy day for the bulls. So we'll check back in on Monday, see how it goes. I'll put out a small cap video. I'll take a vote from members and put out a small cap video probably tomorrow, and we'll see you soon. Do good things.